wonderful Wednesday, and we're going to have a wonderful Wednesday here. Have Andre McAuliffe from Malta. He's
Hi.
back again. And Mr. Roy Bigsby, which you all know, I'm sure. And Roy's here to provide support for us when we start talking about any kind of strange lens, because Roy has it.
Because I'm stranger than most.
And I know that you've been talking to Albert Jimenez about the Bronica Nikkor glass, haven't you?
Yes. Just wondering about mounts and things. Let's see.
And he's okay. So Nikon has produced medium format glass. That ought to be interesting to some people that are looking for a medium format Z camera.
Yes.
Different helical that focuses with a different mechanism to the actual lens.
Wow.
In Roy, may I ask in what year were these produced?
I
How
think
long
again
ago?
70s. I remember back in
Wow.
the 70s, all the wedding photographers had Bronicas, mostly ETRs, though, not the bigger ones.
Okay. Very good. Very
They had-
interesting.
They had these.
Daryl, how you doing, brother?
Those.
RS, Martin Hild, Ray Powell, Dice
All right.
Kolov. Welcome, gentlemen. Darren Francis, how you doing? All right, so the topic I chose, and I understand that we may not dwell on this at all or for just a minute or two, but if anybody is an event shooter out there or would like to shoot events, I just chose that as a topic today. Of course, here on AP Studios, you guys decide what the topic's going to actually be. So, I'd like to, if you guys would like to pick up a conversation on event photography, we have Andre, who has done a bit of event photography, you could say, concert photography, and he actually shot a local car get together, and that's exactly what we're talking about. Is just It may not be a paid event, you may be doing it pro bono for somebody or for a charitable organization or something like that, but just some tips, tricks, and things to think about if you're doing something like an event. Let's see. Hey, how you doing, Jim? J-Rod Photo Art. Gregory France from Cape Town. And we're back to our international audience. Man, we are more international than I think the UN is here on the channel. Seraphin, how you doing, sir? J-Rod Photo Art, nice guitars, Andre.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Seraphin, if you would, I'd like you to take notice in the description again. I am inviting Sony, Canon, Fuji, OM shooters, anybody that shoots any of those brands that would like to be on the show to kind of level us up a bit. You're more than welcome to join. All you have to do is let me know, send me an email, and we'll make that happen. But I can't force anybody to do that. I can only invite. Stuart, how you doing? Yeah, six string Brian. Brian, how are you today? Doing well here. Hope you're doing the same. Anita, how are you doing? Nice to see you in here. So we have quite a few people in already. That's great. But yeah, you guys let us know what you would like to talk about. Otherwise, we'll kick it off on some event photography. And I've shot probably 50 or 60 events over the last 12 years. And I wasn't great at it in the beginning. I had nobody to teach me. I had to learn it on my own. I'm looking at the chat over here. Shiny object always draws me away. But in my experience in doing it, I've done it all pro bono. I've shot some charitable events, some foot races, whatever you call them, for a charity. here in Connecticut, car shows for a friend of mine who is a promoter that sets up car shows and bike shows and things like that. And that's where the photos come from on the thumbnail. And I've shot both indoor and outdoor when it comes to that. And yeah, it's always been fun. And Andre and I were just talking about, what goes into that. Do we, it's easy to get caught up in something we really enjoy, i.e. cars, and you're only shooting the cars and you're not doing anything for the promoter. And one of the first tips for anybody would be, speak with the promoter. If they've invited you to shoot, ask them if they have credentials, which gives you access to everything that's going on at the event. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. And pick the promoter or the event coordinator's mind for anything that they would like to see. And then, of course, and I'm just rolling it all up into one here, exceed their desire or their intended production of their event. So, and there's a lot that goes into that. So anyway, let me look over here and see what's going on.
And if I may, Chuck, because we were
please
discussing before, yes. I always want to make sure that when I'm at an event, I'm comfortable in what way? I'm comfortable with the lenses which I chose for that event. I'm comfortable with the venue, so I have to make sure that the lenses I'm choosing for the event make sense in terms of the plan. So if the organizers, for example, of a jazz festival, of a concert, will tell you, listen, this is an overview of the layout, this is where the artist will be, this is where you will be able to shoot from. So ideally, I usually go on the website of the venue, you say, okay, unless you can obviously go there in advance. And based on that, I will decide on the lenses and on the bag which I'm going to take. And I will always ask if there's, in terms of security, like, will there be 20 photographers there or will there be 3? Because it makes all the difference, I'm not comfortable leaving my bag on the floor and 20 photographers are there, maybe with another think tank bang, and they swap it with mine, and I end up with some Olympus gear, I don't know. But basically, these are important things, for how long are you expecting me to be there? What's the lighting going to be like? If this is a recurring event, maybe I also try to visit the website to see other angles which the promoter already used. Things like that. So obviously it depends on the event always. But for me, comfort, peace of mind of my gear, and obviously how many other photographers are going to be there, duration of the event. Again, if it's loud music, do I need to take in-ear, so I suppress the volume so I don't want to damage my eardrum. Well, that's my starting point usually.
Yeah, and there's so many considerations for doing this. I mean, and we can go through a laundry list of them here as we go through it. Let's look at some of the questions or comments coming in right now from Jim, J Rod Photo Art. How do you deal with people getting in the way of car show pictures? Well, one is most of the time, if you're actually setting up to take a photo of a car, not everybody, but most people will notice and they'll try to step out of the way. The one thing you don't want to, you want to be transparent when you're at an event and not interfere with what's going on. And the other thing is sometimes having people in the photo with the car is something that the promoter or the organizer really wants to see as well, because it shows participation, and that's what they're about. Is they're probably going to use all this not just to document this event, but use it in promotion for their next event. So showing a crowd is a big deal. Promoters love that. And your photos won't be just all cars and things like that. There has to be some other photos that are taken there to show what went on at the event. And this is for a car show or pretty much anything, whether it's a marathon you're covering. And if Briar was in here, he covers a lot of marathons. He could speak directly to that. But it can't be just one dimension. It has to cover what went on at the event. And this is what I found makes the promoters or the organizers extremely happy. If you've given them a snapshot through 30 or 40 or more photos of the event that shows what took place. And yeah, again, sometimes I'll ask them if they could move for just a minute, Jim, and typically they will. Seraphin, my go-to for concerts is my 150 millimeter equivalent 1.8, just fantastic for darker situations. Yeah, that's something to consider, and that's something that Andre was just talking about. Have fast glass if you're shooting indoors, especially concerts, and and along the lines of what Andre was saying, if you're shooting indoors and you haven't shot at this venue before, get there early, I would suggest, so you can set your white balance and look at, how the lighting is and what you're going to have to use for the shoot. RS says his first event was Billy Preston. Wow. Very nice. Very nice.
Obviously, it's important to ask if flash photography is allowed, because it can make all the difference, obviously, amongst other things.
Yep. Roy, we're going to get to the Bronica in a minute because I don't want to throw that opportunity away, because I think that a lot of people may be interested in that as well. So we'll milk the event photography for right now and move over to some of these comments that you and Albert are
A lot of venues don't
chatting
allow
about.
flash, so you've got to have that fast lens.
Yep. Yeah, and a lot of places aren't going to let you use flash. And now, in my case, in a car show, indoor, the lighting is terrible, and trying to find a starting point for your white balance is something you'll have to identify when you get there. Most cameras have settings for fluorescent lighting, a setting for it, and you might be able to choose from what's available in camera that looks decent, looks good. And that's going to be a setting that will remain throughout the shoot so that you can color correct or later if you want and set the white balance.
Flash.
Yeah.
Overpower everything.
Yeah, I just found it difficult to use flash on an indoor car shoot or even a bike shoot, and I have tried without setting up something pretty, extraordinary. Using on-camera flash is just forget it. You're not going to do that when it comes to lighting a car or a motorcycle, because all you get is hot spots everywhere. But if you had the opportunity to set up real lighting with a large softbox or something like that, you could probably make it work. Now, where I do use on camera flash, because it's a bit different for shooting an event, you're not taking actual portraits, is when I'm shooting the promoter and some of the friends that he wants his photo taken with and things like that. If it's dark enough, I'll use flash and liberally just for the white balance for those photos, for skin tones, because it's so hard to recover that later. But most of the time,
climb into the rigging to set up your lights above everything so it doesn't blind anyone.
Yeah.
And don't forget to wire up your lights so they don't fall on anyone's heads.
Yep. And if it's outdoor, of course, you don't get to pick and choose the time of day. You may be shooting in the hard sunlight, whether it's a marathon or something like that, or a walking event, some other charitable event, or even a car show.
This is a recommendation. These are little disposable shower caps. They're about 1 inch square, and you put a few of them in your bag. They take up no space, and if it rains, you just shove one of them over over everything.
Yep. So I think I covered that enough for right now. But Yes, I'm curious to hear your all's thoughts on shooting events, or if you've shot events, or if you have any questions from anybody that's in the chat or here in the panel about it. Let us know.
Chuck, let's
Yes, sir.
remind the community to hit the like button.
Yes,
It will help.
please. So, as you know, I've
Yes.
got to use my Christmas present here. So here we are. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. You make my beautiful bride very happy if you do. She
You have
got
to put
this
it on
shirt
a big
just for
cardboard
that reason.
cutout.
Yeah. I need to put that on an AP Studios shirt, don't I?
Yes. Terry Newman is asking if anyone used the fisheye on the Z mount. Personally, I have a Sigma fisheye, 15mm f2.8, and it doesn't have an AFS motor, but so on my 850 it works like a charm, but not on the Z mount because I don't have Nikon AFS fisheyes from my end. I don't know
So much
about you, Roy.
distortion
You
on
might
fish
have
eyes.
one. Yes, yes.
Hey, Stuart, that's great, man. You just got out of the hospital. I hope the best for you, and please keep us up to date. We care about everybody, in the community. But I'm really happy to hear that they've Nikon has decided to lend you a Nikon Z for a few shoots before you buy it. That's fantastic. And if you have any questions, again, everybody in the chat, anybody in the panel can help you out maybe. And I'm curious to see what you come up with in your testing out the Nikon Z. So you guys are ahead of me watching the chat. I appreciate that. Everybody's best wishes to Stuart, of course. Let's see. Gregory Franz, did you answer this yet, Andre?
Hi, Andrea. I call myself a music lover with some camera gear, not a full-time photographer. I am not trained, but one of the best places to get familiar with music photography is at music jams. Yes, music jams, especially in these basement jazz clubs, usually there's a nice feel. People are relaxed. They don't mind if you are there taking different shots and close up. So yes, I agree. Let me see. Gregory France here is saying, I mostly photograph jazz in smaller venues. My favorite lenses are primes 85, 50, 28, and 20.
I've heard good things about that lens.
In my experience, for example, based on the venue this last summer, I decided that since there was security and since in view of the size of the venue, I was comfortable taking my 200 f2 on my Z9, and it was incredible. I mean, the out of focus effects of fireworks in the background behind the museums. I mean, again, but it's because I asked the right questions.
Yeah. Brian just shot a concert a few weeks ago with his 51.2. He says it was awesome for the situation. Yeah, this is why I'm waiting for the 85 1.2 in Nikon. I guess I could have purchased the 50 1.2, but 50 isn't a focal length that I use a lot. But I could see where it may come in handy.
But that Nikon 50 is very nice.
Yeah,
it's worth getting, even though I don't shoot 50 very often.
Don't convince me, Roy. Please don't. I can't afford it right now. I have been diligently waiting for that 85 because I have a particular use for it, but I want that 51.2 bad. I've been jonesing for that since it came out, and everybody was showing all these wonderful photos with it. So,
I think in an event, it's always important that you don't only focus on close-up. So you need your wide to get the mood of the event. You need definitely the 2470 to get some detail, and the 7200 too. So you get focus on individuals. If it's car photography, the gear knob, the nice speedo, or the original vintage stereo, so I wouldn't just stick to a range of 50 and 85 for as much as possible, just in case. Use a variety of focal lengths as much as possible.
So it's one of those things where you'd like to have every lens you own, but you don't have time to switch them, and you wouldn't do it when you're in an event. But so being able to pare that down to the most critical lenses. Hey, Darren, that's great, man. Live Nation for concert photography. It's great. And Albert kind of talks about that here. When you know the venue well, the event is a breeze since you can anticipate the gear you'll need. Being forced to over-prepare because you're not acquainted with the location is frustrating. And yes, it is. And no matter what you take while you're there, you're going to believe or feel like, if I only had this lens or that lens that I didn't bring. But talking about concert photography, and early in the chat here, somebody had mentioned for if you have access to shoot an actual concert and from the pit, because it's a large concert, you're probably only there for 3 songs. I mean, you can negotiate, or it may be different for some venues or whatever. So how much are you going to get done in 3 songs, and how much lens changing are you going to do? And I know I've seen photographers take a lens off, sit it on the front of the stage, and put a new lens on. And that's pretty bold, I think. But they're willing to do that because they want the different focal length. And being able to switch on the go. This is why I carry 2 cameras. At least I have 2 focal lengths.
In fact,
always.
I was just going to mention that. I mean, ideally, a must-have, especially if you have the 3-song restriction, 2 bodies as a minimum. So you have your wide and you have your 70-100, for example, and you don't have to stay hassling with the lens caps. And if it's going to fall from the stage, or if another photographer is going to, you don't need to, there will be enough stress already going on. So you have to try to minimize the stress level. So at the end of the day, you enjoy the experience too. It's useless going there and you're stressed out because you're worried you didn't get this shot because you didn't have your wide on, you have to make it a positive experience, So, and I think that positivity will then show in your end results. When you export your images, you send the link to the promoter and you tell him, thanks, for inviting me, have a look at these. And that's, I think, the satisfaction at the end of the day, when people start telling you, wow, that's really cool, really nice, good job.
So I've only been privy to shoot one concert on a pretty large stage. And I learned something. I learned that you need to learn how to shoot concerts. This is for me because what I thought was fantastic when I got home and I looked at the photos, I would say 1 out of maybe 4 or 5 was a photo that I would actually send to someone if I was shooting it for them. Because of the facial expressions and being able to capture the right expressions is critical. Somebody with looking up their nose, and I had a couple of those. That's not a very flattering photo for any artist. So I guess there's another learning curve when it comes to concert photography, which I'm not well versed at. So I was going to say, Jim, how do you? So this is a manual focus lens. So you're talking about fisheyes, and you'd asked about what's the best fisheye lens for Nikon, I guess Z system, and but if you're shooting a concert or any other event photography, if there's a lot of movement going on, I can't use a manual focus lens. I am not that good with a manual focus lens. So, I mean, I'll let the other guys weigh in.
Fish eye just about grabs everything without focus anyway. Virtually everything's in focus.
Okay.
It's a couple of feet to infinity.
Can I
They're
just
so
share
wide that they get everything in
some
focus.
tips?
Yeah.
Yes, usually this applies to concert photography. So usually as a workflow, what I do once I commit myself that I'm going to shoot this event, let's say it's a 3-night event, I check the program I downloaded, I have a look at the band and the musicians, and what is very, very important is that I process the photos after the event, and I send the Dropbox links to the individual musicians who played that night, because these guys are exhausted after a gig. Then they go on the phone, they see the messenger or message link with a Dropbox link with the photos, and they say, wow, and the first thing they want to do, they get that pump in energy. Oh, there are some nice shots. And they end up sharing and posting your photos with your watermark, a subtle watermark. But I find that very, very effective, when you get the actual artist to share the photos which you made readily available for them that evening. I think that
brings up another important point. Depending on the venue you're shooting and what you're doing, if it's pro bono, it may be different because it's not a big event, or, well, I shouldn't say not a big event, but not an international or national event. But photo releases and things like that, especially if you're shooting, I guess, I don't know how that works for concert photography. I guess you have a photo. It's part of the package that you get a photo. You get a photo shoot
release.
Release. So that's one of the things, and I learned this in the motocross world. Shooting and being able to immediately post the photos was a no-go. There was a embargo on when I could post my photos outside with the promoter. So, that's something else to consider.
It depends on,
Yeah, you got to ask these questions up front.
Yes. In fact, certain events, for example, if you'll be a group of 10 photographers, they send you an email, listen, this is what you're expected to wear, all in black, for example, these are the conditions, this is what you have to avoid. So yes, I'm talking in general, if it's allowed, then yes, why not? I would do it. So, for example, the late Chick Corea, the fabulous, fantastic piano jazz player, he performed in Malta before he passed away, and yes, I sent him the photos. I also took photos with him, etc. And I was happy when he shared, obviously, the photos I took for him with his band. So, but yeah, I ensured that it was in line with the terms and conditions of the festival which I participated in as a photographer, of course.
Yeah, that's just always a concern with sharing. Sharing photos is one thing, but if you plan to, and a lot of people do, they plan to sell the photos. I mean, it's hard to hang on to a photo if you have a photo of some star but catching them as a paparazzi type photo out and,
In fact, what I do to try to mitigate that is when I send the artist my Dropbox exports, they have a watermark, a subtle one, but then I also send them low resolution pics. They are good enough for Facebook, but then I know, because it happened to me, that if they want the high-res version without the watermark, they will usually, hey, thanks, we'd like to use this photo for our upcoming tour. Can you send us the high-res version, and we're willing to pay you X amount for using this. So, because if you send them the high res exports right away, then they
Don't
just
expect to
won't.
hear from them again.
Exactly. Exactly.
Hey, Z Wade, how you doing, buddy? We have Charles Davis is in there. Charles, hope you're well. And of course, Mr. Ray Powell. Ray Powell brought up earlier talking about the first thing he does is find out where the bathrooms are. Yeah, at his age. Me too. Me too, buddy. I need to know where they're at. Oh, man.
Research
Trying
before
to
you
scroll
start.
down here. Yeah, you know what? This is another thing to do. Another thing that you must do if you weren't asked to shoot an event or whatever, or if you'd like to shoot an event, no matter what it is, whether it's a concert or other, is check out their media policy, and it will usually spell out how you go about getting getting credentials for the event, and it's not always the easiest thing to do. You got to sell yourself in the application, no doubt about that. Who you are, what you do, and how it benefits them. That's what they're looking for. So, yeah, and we can talk about that more if you guys want to as well. I'm not completely familiar with it, but I have applied a few times and been successful. But I was using my promoter friend who has a tri-state area paper that he puts all of his events and everything in, and that became my media source or my media connection. Let's see. You guys pick up on any other comments, by all means, jump on them.
I'm not a event photographer to know these things. I've only done a few.
Yeah, but you've got great common sense with photography, and you've been a commercial photographer forever. So, I mean, a lot of the things do apply.
Yes. I'm seeing Daryl here, who is saying that he used to, once he moved to the Z mount, he decided to go all in and, sell all his F mount lenses, apparently. Sold all but 2 F mount, so he kept 2 F mount lenses. I'm very happy with my F mount lenses, to be honest. I mean, with the F2Z adapter, yes, in an ideal world with no budget limitations, I'll update everything, but it's easier said than done. But the Trinity, I'm very happy. The 70-200 is, works flawlessly. The 24/7 f2.8, no complaints. Yes, I did buy, which I use for concert photography too. You have it too, Chuck, the 100-400 Z mount.
Yep.
Very good lens. The 51.8, I love it. I have the 51.4 AFS, but in terms of bokeh and rendition, I find the 51.8, although it's a 1.8, it's
nicer lens.
nicer. Yes, it's nicer. So, I don't have that urge like I want only Z mount and I want to get rid of my...
If you're not shooting video, the F mount lenses are just as good anyway.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. Agreed.
Darren shoots for a pro hockey team. So they use him for the concert events. So yeah, you're already in the mix, and that's one thing to do if you really want to get into something like concept photography or whatever, is to start beating on doors and also remain consistent, and then it's an easier fit to get credentials, press credentials or media creds for other events, especially if you get into one subject like hockey, then you're already in. That's nice. Long Rider, good to see you, buddy. I'm so relaxed. Haven't used autofocus all week. Been shooting manual focus Zeiss lenses. Nice to do ever so often and slow down. Yeah, that would slow me down, no doubt about it, because my eyesight nowadays is not what it was when I was in my
Yeah.
30s, no doubt about that.
But Chuck, don't you find focus speaking a big help in,
It is a huge help for me now. Absolutely, a huge help.
And focus confirmation.
Yep.
Yes,
It is. It's a huge help. Yeah, but obviously for me anyway, it's not as fast as autofocus, no doubt about that. But yeah, the focus peaking speeds up my ability to catch an in focus shot with manual lenses. And I go back to my Zeiss 100 f2. Man, that lens is just fantastic. You just have to put up with the fact that it's manual focus, but beautiful lens.
Yeah. So talking about Zeiss, for example, I have a Distagon 18mm f3.5. It's a ZF2 lens, so it communicates the aperture with the Z9 and everything. But if it's landscape, I'll just turn on the focus peaking, you slow down, and the results are beautiful. The Zeiss glass is out of this world.
Yep, there it is.
Yes. The build quality and those lenses are incredible.
Let's see.
That one's my favorite, the 135.
Oh, and I'm waiting for Nikon's 135
nice.
now.
What aperture is that, Roy?
That's an f2.
F2, okay.
Which is good for events and things. It's long enough to be useful. I like 135 because it's a nice length.
Agreed.
Daryl says he hadn't tried it, but he's heard a good way to get in is to offer to shoot something the promoter needs help with, or no one else typically is interested, and work your way up. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And you know what? It's building a portfolio per se, shooting something that, is a local event or something like that, whether it's, again, one of these marathons or charity runs or whatever, and or even car shows, motorcycle shows, because they're not national or international events typically, but it's a great way to build your portfolio and practice and find out what focal lengths you would need and things like that, and work your way up. Absolutely, Daryl. I agree.
What's also important, Chuck, in my opinion, is when you're posting after an event, if you're obviously allowed to do that, is the tagging, the description of the photo, tagging the venue, tagging the artist if possible, if it's, if there's certain detail, maybe you tag the sound engineer, you tag them, but tags work a long way, because then, your photo gets shared and all that,
Even in your local events, you're going to capture people in your photos, and they're going to want to share that photo of themselves. I mean, that's a given. If I take a photo of a certain motorcycle, you can bet I'm going to get emails about, can I get a copy of that and whatever. And they're welcome to share it all they want. I don't care, because again, I was doing it pro bono for a promoter, but this is one way to branch out. One way to network is to go out and shoot these local events and do them well. And that will help you down the road for a larger event. So yeah, absolutely. Gregory wants to know where you're based, Andre.
I'm in Malta, the island of Malta, which is in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea.
What a terrible place to be.
In fact, we were discussing temperatures here, and for us, it's really cold. It's a cold February for us. It's 10 degrees Celsius, so it's like 50 Fahrenheit, It's, in fact, I'm with my scarf, as you can see, because we're not used to this weather. So yes, but it's a nice place. Nothing to complain.
Darren, you're absolutely right. It's all about, again, this is why you network so much. If you want to get into this type, this genre of work, is all the networking you can do. And again, I say volunteering for a local event and capturing it is a good way to start. By word of mouth, you'll probably begin to move up into higher tier concert work or whatever. So yeah, absolutely. Build that contact list, no doubt about it. Make sure everybody knows about it too as you continue to shoot. Da, 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 da.
I really like the photo behind you, Chuck. The detail you took, the composition. That's a very, the colors. You have the red and the black, the contrast. It's very well done.
Crispy feel.
Yeah, so this is one of those things: is be creative when you're shooting, no matter what it is. Don't take the norm everybody else is doing, and you may hit upon something that nobody's been doing yet. It's something that's very unique and desirable. So don't worry about everything balanced and everything else in the photo. This is a beautiful car, but what's beautiful about it is the graphics that have been painted on the side. They're just fantastic. And again, if you're shooting indoors, you can't imagine how much trouble it was to get all the overhead lights from reflecting in this artwork on this car. But again, something different. And it was a photo that everybody really liked, but you can't see the car. And some people would argue, a few people would say, well, I can't see the car. Well, the majority liked it from a creative aspect. So again, experiment, do things like that. And thank you very much, Andre. Of course, I'm only going to show the best, right? Not that it's great, but yeah, I mean, there are some blunders you run into shooting events, of course. But don't follow don't swim upstream. Go and look at what everybody's done in these events, and then figure out something that's different and try it. And you may strike upon something or a reason for a promoter to say, I want you. And that's kind of what happened to me with this guy that I've shot for so long. I shot an event just as a freelancer, just having fun or whatever, went to a show just to get out and shoot. And I gave him, 10 or 20 photos. And he goes, man, I don't get this from the other photographers. All they show me is just the whole car or whatever, or the whole motorcycle, which is important, by the way. But you give me crowd, you give me details, you give me vendors. And that's what I tried to do. And he loved it. So again, local events to begin with, and it will spread to larger venues and larger events.
I'm seeing a comment here from Gregory Franz, who's saying, what is also a good thing on social media is to tag music instrument gear brands that the musicians are using. This is a very, very important point, because most musicians, obviously, who are invited at these top levels, especially if you're looking at jazz, fusion, instrumental music, they would be endorsing certain gear, certain equipment. So what I noticed recently, as you probably most of you know, David Crosby passed away, a fantastic guitarist, fantastic musician. And I could see on social media, most guitar brands, which the late David Crosby was using throughout the years, they were uploading photos, using their guitars, obviously writing an appreciation about the artist. So I think that's a very good idea to tag. So for example, Chuck, you tag the rim manufacturer in that photo, for example, just an idea, or the graphics company. They might then engage you. Listen, can you come and take some photos for our new range of stickers, which are heat resistant and they won't fade in the harshest sunlight,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That is critical. The graphics artist for that car, I tagged him.
Exactly. Yeah.
In the thumbnail, you'll see a picture of a gas cap on a motorcycle. and it's American Metal. I tagged them, and then they came back to me and said, "Hey, we might like you to shoot some of our other vehicles or whatever, and some of our other work." So you're absolutely right. That's another way to tap into more work or more opportunities.
Exactly.
Jim, we won't tell her, man, because we're in a society here. We're mom when it comes to gear purchases.
Yeah, I've got a problem.
This is. I also agree with the comment from Darren Francis, who says, shooting any event, you have to tell the story with your shots, not just the subject. So telling the story is a must. You have the musicians going up on stage. They're a bit excited, about to start a tune. Then you get the individual doing the solos, and at the end, they're in line thanking everyone. These are all important moments appreciated by everyone. And you get the audience too. That's why I like using the 1424. I go to the side of the stage, you get the musicians in line, and you get the crowd clapping, just one nice angle. So telling the story is a must. But again, it depends on the subject.
You're absolutely right, Darren and Andre. The bottom line is, as an event photographer, that's exactly what you have to do, is tell the story. And it may not be just the photos that interest you. So, again, show the event, not just a couple of subjects. Show the event in your photos. Absolutely. Because that's what promoters and organizers are looking for.
Never take things for granted. For example, before, when I think I did like 8 jazz festivals, the main music event in Malta, I used to forget the compere, the presenter. I used just to take photos of the band. But then I said, the last 2 editions, I took photos of the guy just reading, introducing the band. And when I sent him the photos, the sharing I got from his post, because obviously he knew a lot of people, so he shared the photos which I took of him. He's, and then that you gain traction on other posts and all this. So never take anything for granted. Don't just say, I'm just shooting the main artist. No, you can consider everything, what's happening around you. So, anyways, sorry.
Greg, I actually have. I've already been researching some of the products and things like that, because I want to put it all in the description. And I am going to reference all the things that I'm using. Not that everybody would necessarily go that way, but what's the sort of the bare minimum that's quality to get started as far as setting up a. There you go. Roy's going to show us his again. That's great. So, cool. And with links to, be it B&H, Adorama, or Amazon, because believe it or not, there's some quality things you can purchase on Amazon to set up your studio. I mean, as far as streaming goes. So yeah, I'm working on it as we speak, I should say, but so hopefully I'll be able to put that together here before long. Yeah, again, remember to smash the like button, folks. I really appreciate it when you do that. We don't have as big a draw today. I don't know if the subject matter is not interesting to a lot of people, but if you just hang around for a while, it'll change, because that's what we do here.
Well, we have 21 likes, which is, good, considering we've been on for 50 minutes. So that's nice.
Okay. Kevin Nordstrom, hello. Good to see you in here. So if you guys, again, you have any experience, you've been out shooting and whatever, and we haven't talked about it yet as far as events go, then by all means, bring it up in the chat. And we're going to get around here in a minute too. Mr. Roy's been in a chat with Albert Jimenez on the Bronica Nikkor lenses. and we're going to talk about that because this is interesting to me, and I think it might be to others as well.
Albert's
All
the
right.
expert on the Bronicas. I'm more familiar with the ETRs, Bronicas, than the S. He's the expert, not me.
Well, I think both of you, between you two, you can cover just about everything going back to the 60s or even longer, I think, as far as lenses go and cameras. Let's see. So explain to them about your mirror, Roy.
Oh, yeah.
Because you gave us that explanation earlier.
Oh yeah, we were talking about mirrors. This isn't a mirror; it's a perspex, because you don't use mirrors in product photography. Because if you've got glass on the top, you get double image. You get an echo of the image. So you use perspex instead, which has got no glass in front of it. If you follow me.
Yep.
And also with the black, you use black mirrors a lot. Where are we? Black mirrors.
No, I had to go to a different vendor. I ran into a problem with the vendor I started with, but I have the order in, and here in the next few days, maybe I get to see what's coming or see what
Things
they
like
are.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, Roy, as far as a mirror goes, a
You
glass.
don't use glass mirrors.
Yep.
Interesting.
All right.
I also like, Roy, the fact that you have color-coded lens caps. Actually,
Yes, I
found-
have to. I'll
yes,
get confused otherwise.
yes.
If you
Yeah,
work in the
I
same
find
like I
that,
do, you have to have color coded everything.
yes. I found that very useful for my DX lenses, basically.
Mm.
I have them all yellow, for example, so automatically I know it's a DX lens.
Yeah, otherwise you can really mess up.
That's a great idea for just reaching in the bag for the next lens or whatever to have them color coded like that too. As
Yes.
far as DX full frame, that's cool.
There is also a Canadian firm which prepares labels. So, for example, you tell them you have the Z mount, and they will send you a stock of labels of all the, so you have 50,
Yep.
1.8, 70 to 100. And that's good because I use them,
There
I
we
just
go.
use removable labels.
Okay. Yes, exactly. That's good. It's
It's
important
cheaper.
to keep organized. Yes.
I did the same thing, Roy, on my lens caps. I put the focal length, the filter size, and what else did I put on there? And of course, shoot.
Okay.
So, it's just easy to grab that way
And
using
the
the
aperture,
label.
probably.
Huh?
The aperture.
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I just put the lens and the aperture, things like filter size. Most of them are either 77 or 82s.
Okay.
I don't worry about that.
Okay. Good. We have Chuck now going in his museum for a change.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's good.
It's quick reference. I know what it is, and
Yes. No. That's a very good idea.
that's just
The filter.
an inexpensive label maker. So far, they haven't fallen off, so I guess I'm okay.
Good. Very good idea.
All right. Albert sending sample photos to you by the dozens, Roy.
It looks it. I'll have to have a look at them after.
And now J-Rod, too. Great. Yeah, Albert's an interesting fella, I'll tell you.
He is.
His passion for lenses is unparamounted, man. He and you want to talk about lenses and weird and strange lenses as well. He can talk about it.
I like using them. I only adapt them so I can use them. I'm not
Yeah.
into adapting just for the sake of it. He seems to be an expert on adapting lenses.
Yeah. All right. Inkless, let's see. Seraphin talking about, as I said earlier, if you carry a wireless inkless pocket printer from line 2x3 people, yeah, I guarantee you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right, because you go to an event, expect to get asked 100 times if you will send them, or if you would be willing to send them a photo that you took of them or their vehicle or whatever they're doing is in a marathon or something like that. And you got to figure out before you go how you're going to approach that, whether it's something that belongs to the promoter or you can use that as an excuse, contact them or whatever, because you will be asked. If you haven't ever done events, you will be asked for photos that you take of objects, subjects, or whatever. No doubt about it. And I always refrain from giving them a yes, I'll send you a photo. I would come home with a laundry list of email addresses, expecting me to sit and go through the photo and edit and everything and send to them, which I honestly don't mind. It's not that I mind. It's just so time consuming to get caught up in that mess. And if you have a promoter, you can always refer them to the promoter. And another thing that I would suggest is what I do. The promoter I shoot with, I tell him, give me a stack of your cards. Because when they ask for a photo, I hand them his card and say, all photos are going to him or this, whatever the organization is, and you can contact them about getting a photo. And then they'll ask, well, will they send? I don't know. I can't. I'm shooting for him, so you need to contact him. It's just a time-consuming thing to get into, and especially at a car show or a bike show, because everybody wants that shot you took of their bike or their car. And I could spend 2 or 3 days emailing photos to people. So just something to think about.
I think, Chuck, it's also important your body language during an event,
Yep.
I mean, it's not I pretend. I'll actually be very busy, thinking about the next event, what I want to shoot. So people, they say hello, but you show them that you're busy. If you start chatting, and other people might say, let's go and ask the photographer there. He's talking with other people, and maybe we'll ask him for a photo of this and that. So I basically keep, during an event, hi, hello, see you later, because I'm busy, because I'm actually photographing the event, and and then you limit the conversations that, listen, not take a photo of me backstage or something, just listen, I'm busy shooting the event, you can visit the website of the organizer or something.
I mean, obviously, your demeanor means a lot, not just to the people that you're speaking with, but to the promoter. I mean, they observe that, and you don't want a promoter hearing about, your photographer over there just, said he offended me or whatever, or he wouldn't talk to me or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, but I think this goes along with any kind of photography. Your demeanor speaks volumes as to whether somebody would want you to shoot for them again or whatever. And this is even for models if you're in portraits. But yeah, it's hard because Darren Francis asked, do you send photos for free or charge them? Darren, I'm not a working photographer at all. Not that I couldn't charge somebody for some photos or whatever, but that's not typically what I'm doing. I probably should. Maybe I'd actually pay for some of the gear I have, but I just point them to the promoter or to the organization that I'm shooting for, and let them deal with it. And so far, everybody seems to be happy. I've never had anybody contact me after this fact and say the promoter wouldn't give me my photo or whatever. So anyway, that's how I handle it. But I'm not a business person when it comes to photography, and so bit different. Yeah, Andre, I saw that compliment you got there. Gregory checked out your portfolio, man.
Well, actually, I have photos just on my Facebook page, which is basically it's my name, but likewise, I'm a hobbyist. I do this because I'm a musician myself, and I enjoy obviously photography in the context of music, especially. So again, business-wise, I'm in the same boat as you, Chuck. I do it for the love of photography and not for the financial side. Although, yes, there were occasions where, you know, I get paid, but I'm not after that. You know, I enjoy the moment.
So to wrap this up on the event side, which you guys are more than welcome to carry on throughout the stream, we are going to have a shorter stream today. Just after 2 p.m., I have to leave. So it's a little over an hour from now. I have to leave because I have a very important appointment today that I have to make. I can't blow off, so I'll have to take off. But to wrap it up, I mean, if you want to get into event photography, it's probably a lucrative thing to get into once you have your foot in the door. And shooting several genres within event photography would definitely be a plus. But starting out with local events that go on, I mean, in the summertime, typically wherever you are, there's some kind of event that's going on in your town, village, city, wherever you live. And, talk to the promoters or the event organizers and let them know who you are and that you'd like to shoot it, and you'd be willing to provide them with the photos afterwards. You can decide later on when you want to start shooting for compensation, and they may even offer you some compensation for just volunteering to shoot the event. But talk to the event coordinator, talk to the promoter, ask them what they expect from you or what they would like to see as a product from their event, and then take it a step further for them and give them some of those creative angles and photos that they wouldn't normally see. Make sure that you take care of shooting the vendors. That's really big in event photography. It goes a long way for organizers because they want these people to come back and be part of their event the following year. And and through that, doing that, you may get some opportunities with some of these vendors to come and shoot their product or their, if it's a food vendor, shoot maybe menus, or, I mean, there's just this can really become a lucrative shooting opportunity for you. Make sure you ask them about credentials, if they have credentials, and typically at any event, they've got event people, running around with staff badges or something like that. But let them know that you would like some sort of badge as well if they offer them, which gives you access, and you're not going to have to worry about anybody telling you to get out of the paddock if that's the case, or get out of the I don't know, just different areas that may be off limits to the public. And it gives you an opportunity to catch other photos that wouldn't necessarily be available. Make sure that you also talk to them about storage of equipment, and it's up to you to decide whether you trust them or not, but a location where you could lock a bag up or something like that. And you decide if you're comfortable with it, but it's nice to know that there is a place, even if it's just if it's a cold, whatever, an indoor event, and you're walking in with a heavy coat or on, if it were winter, place to store your coat. So anyway, ask them about storage for your equipment and things like that. And again, it's up to you to decide whether it's adequate enough for you to store your bag as you go about your business and come back periodically to change lenses or something like that. Also, be prepared for a lot of walking. I mean, if you're shooting any kind of event, you're going to walk, even if it's an indoor car event. I have shot a car event where I probably walked 6 or 8 miles around this indoor event, because I'm always looking for something different. And how long do they want you there? And then you decide on how long you can be there, especially if you're doing it pro bono. But one pass in a car show is not enough. Concerts are different because there is a time limit based on, whatever the band's going to do. But other events, a marathon, that may be an all-day thing. that's going on because of the length of the run and whatever it may be that you're doing. So anyway, ask about the time and you decide how much time you can afford to spend there or want to spend there, but be prepared for a long day. If you're really enjoying it, you'll just stay because it's fun. If you're enjoying shooting, and you may have a ton of photos to sift through later on the photos, and we talked about already, people at the event are going to bug you constantly about, can you send me a copy of that? You decide whether you want to do it. There's nothing wrong if you choose to do that, but let the promoter know or the event organizer know that you are willing to send photos for those that ask for them. And maybe that's the discussion that you need to have with the organizer or the promoter, because they may not want you sharing those photos because they're going to represent their brand or their organization with all these photos. I don't know. You just have to discuss that with the organizer or the promoter. And it definitely makes you look more professional because you're asking them questions that they hadn't even considered, but you're being considerate for their use. Dress appropriately, have plenty of memory cards, get there early, especially if it's an indoor event, so you can set your camera up for the best exposure before you begin shooting, because once you get going, you're not going to want to stop and change everything.
Don't forget batteries, charging
Yep.
of batteries,
Yep.
and a good strap, a good comfortable strap. I love my Peak Designs just as an example, but they make all the difference, because you don't end up with that focused pressure on your shoulder. I mean, it depends on the layer of fat you have on your shoulder too, but these things are very, very important.
Make sure you ask the event organizer, are there any special or VIP folks that are going to be at the event? Because they're definitely going to want photos of them, and ask them you want to invite the promoter or the organizer into photos. Let them know that you're willing, if they need you to take a photo with one of these VIPs or other individuals, that you're willing to do that. That goes a long, long way. They may not use them, but everybody likes a photo of themselves, but it may be part of their promotion for their next event. And we already talked about vendors. That goes a long way for you as well. But lighting. So you can talk about bringing lighting for something special within the event, if it's possible. Some events you shoot, they won't allow you flash. Obviously, if it's indoors and concert photography, you're not going to get that 99.9% of the time. If it's a local band, maybe you can get away with some of that if you think it will help you. But most of the time, ambient light for concert photography is the way to go, because that's the concert. That's what makes it special. With all
glass.
Yeah, and fast glass, absolutely. So these are just some things to consider. I mean, there's a laundry list of things that you need to go through, but I would recommend, if you want to get into some sort of event photography, start locally, man. Even bars that invite bands in, whether it's a two-man, duo, or whether it's an actual band, and ask the bar, the club, or whatever, if they would mind. And of course, then you're going to have to also ask the band or whatever. And it's a good start. And it may be the thing that kicks off your career in photography, in that genre. I just watched, and I would recommend everybody, whether you shoot Canon, Nikon, Sony, or whatever, to check out Nikon Sessions on YouTube. They're doing different genres and how people got into what they shoot. The very first one was actually concert photography, and it's really interesting to listen to how they got into it. Doesn't matter the camera you're using, but how they got into concert photography. And some of them are very accomplished now, where 10 years ago nobody knew who they were, or they didn't even have a camera. So anyway, all that said, and I'll let Andre and Roy weigh in with anything they've got, and then we'll move on to something fun.
Events can be a lot of fun, mind you.
Too many people.
Um,
Anything
yes,
to add
they
to
are
it, Andre?
the Nikon Europe sessions by Richie. They are Richie.
Yes.
Richie is the host. Yes, in fact, there was a third one, I believe, on portrait photography, which
Yeah.
was quite interesting too.
I
So,
haven't
yes.
found the second and third near as interesting as I did the first, but that's just
Yes, I
me.
agree. I agree with
That
you.
that was very interesting because it applies to no matter brand at all. I guess all of them kind of do really, but that one was interesting to me hearing how they actually broke through into concert photography.
That was the best one. I agree with you. The first Nikon Europe sessions. It's true.
Yep. All right. Joe Stroud just joined us. How you doing, Joe? Good to see you, man. I guess Z's probably bugged out by now because he was probably on his lunch break, but good that he jumped in for a minute. So what do you guys want to talk about? You want to talk about some of these lenses that Albert and Roy have been talking about, chatting behind the scenes? I didn't even know these existed. And you Sony folks and Canon folks, if you want to come on the show, by all means, just let me know and we can talk about unique Sony or Canon lenses too.
This is
Let's see. Tell us, Roy.
that's the lens. That's the focusing helicoid. That does all. That works like you've got inside your lens now by moving the lens closer and further away.
Okay.
And that's the actual lens. It has no focusing mechanism in it. That's a bigger one. I've only got a couple at the moment of these, but I've got a lot of Bronica ETR ones. They're different again.
So the interesting part for me is that they're medium format lenses that Nikon did in conjunction with Bronica, correct?
Yeah, these are both Nikons.
Okay.
Okay.
There's a website in New Zealand, Photosynthesis, that has a nice list of all the lenses ever made for Nikons, and they're listed there too. I get a lot of information from them. Hang on, where are we? I'll post it if I can.
Yes. Earlier, Charles spoke a bit about the interview, which was posted on a recent interview with a Nikon executive. It was on the Nikon Rumors site. There were some interesting observations, in my opinion, to the autofocus. It was referred to as computer vision. So basically, the Z9 has incorporates processing, which is referred to as computer vision calculation, and based on what it sees, these 9 subjects, then that affects the speed of the autofocus. It was quite interesting, reading the explanation on the subject auto detection settings and the autofocus, how it works.
Nikon does that sometimes with the executive interviews. They give us a peek, not much, but a peek into what the thought process is going on at Nikon. And I noticed that Sony and Canon here lately have been pretty close-lipped as well. So again, I jump back to, have they really shut down leaks? Maybe Sony, Canon, and Nikon, or because there's not a lot of information coming out of any of those camps right now. Definitely in Nikon. Nikon, even on the talking about flash guns or flash Nikon brand speed lights. Yeah. They won't come out and say, yeah, we've given it up. But in the roundabout way, they're hinting that, yeah, we're done with speed lights. It doesn't make sense. I don't know why they can't just say, look, we're not going to manufacture any more speed lights. We'll continue to service what we have and sell, what's still available. But it's our plan to move away from building speed lights anymore. And a lot of people, Roy talked about this recently too. A lot of people have moved away from speed lights because there are some compact other flash strobes out there. Obviously, Godox, that 8200, the smaller 8300 and 100 and whatever that are out there now that seem to be, taking the place of speed lights for the most part. The only difference is you're probably not going to mount those. You could, some of them, but you're not going to mount them on camera. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
There are the Nissans too, for considered as not budget, but I mean, then there's obviously the Pro Photo, which are sort of, Nikon approved. So, they talk in terms of TTL and all that. They communicate.
Yeah. And in that interview, I mean, I've talked about it before, and I get beat up by Nikon people all the time, which should make you Canon and Sony people happy that Nikon people beat me up. But the Z9, as fantastic as it is, and it is a fantastic camera, there is a learning curve in using that camera. And the Nikon executive kind of talks about that when he's talking about the sophisticated. I mean, he paints a prettier picture than I do, but the sophisticated AF system in the Nikon Z9. I mean, it has multiple functions within AF, and you've got to get it set up the right way for what you're doing. So, I'm sorry, Nikon. I love you. I love your equipment, but there is a learning curve with your AF system. Give at least a first time experience or with that new AF system, something closer to auto that will begin that works initially, and they can begin to fine tune it through the sophisticated AF system that it has. At least that's what I would ask of them.
Have you, Chuck, tried using the Z9 in P mode rather than an aperture priority, or, because P mode is quite intelligent.
I haven't.
It's quite, I would give it a shot. It's
I
not
will
auto,
now.
obviously, but it's, it gives some nice combinations, obviously.
Yep.
I start off in P mode because if you have to grab a quick picture of something, it's the quickest way of doing it. But normally I wouldn't use P mode for the actual photographs.
Yes. Even if I hand over the camera to my wife, for example, to take a picture, I switch it to P mode.
I hadn't thought about that, but that's a good point. If I could build that muscle memory, every time I shut the camera down and to put it back on the shelf, move it back to P mode, because if I have to grab the camera real quick and I'm in manual mode, that could be anything. From shooting inside and then pick the camera up to run outside and take a photo or whatever in manual mode. Now I got to reset everything. So that's a great idea, actually, I think.
Yes.
Whenever you put the camera away, it has to be set up again.
Yep.
Battery out and set up.
I don't. I'm apt to have a card that's half full in the camera when I grab it. I don't know why I'm so afraid to delete the photos. Go ahead, Andre.
Chuck, yes. Again, in the interview, the marketing executive keeps mentioning the shortages of some materials and how it affects their production. So he mentions in particular the 600 f4, saying that, the orders exceeded their expectations for the 600. And then when you combine that with a shortage of parts, I mean, I don't think it's an excuse, to be honest. I think genuinely, there are shortages.
Well, you know why I consider it an excuse, Andre, and I'm going to pick on Nikon again here, because Nikon won't just come out and say, look, we're a smaller company. We have limited production capability. Okay, I get it now. I understand. But as far as parts go, too, it seems like Canon and Sony and Fuji have done okay at the parts bin. And Nikon continues to use that. I mean, I'm sure there are some shortages. I'm sure there are. But it would seem they want everyone to believe that this is why we can't get cameras to you. Yet other manufacturers, even, and everybody will say, well, you got people waiting on, whatever model in Canon or Sony or whatever. Not too long, because, there are too many of them out here now on YouTube and everything else, new models or whatever. They are available. They are readily available. So anyway, my beef with Nikon is they won't just say, hey, look, we develop premier products, and we're going to not just take our time. We're forced to take our time because we don't have such a mass production facility to do it. And how many times can you get away with, well, we didn't realize the popularity of this model or this lens or whatever, therefore demand is, come on. When's the last time you dropped a premier lens or camera body and it just sat on the shelf? When's the last time that happened? They know what to expect. So to me, that's a cop out. So anyway, I'm going to pick on them. I'm going to continue to pick on them for that reason. If they would just tell us, hey, we can't make enough right now. Our production capability isn't high enough to develop enough of these at once or whatever. I'm okay with that. Just tell me the truth. Yeah. Instead of getting beat up by every YouTuber because they're going to come out with that statement, make that excuse, and here we go again. Go ahead, Andre.
But I take it like, for example, from my end, I was never comfortable enough to afford buying a Pro body brand new, So if I had a D4S, I bought it actually from Gray's of Westminster, second hand. Happy with it. But when the Z9 was announced at that target price bracket of 5,000, or it was around 5,000 euros in Europe, 5,500, all of a sudden I said, hey, listen, usually these bodies, this range goes for 6.5. So at 5.5, and I know a lot of photographers like me who said, you know what, even if it was COVID, people were spending less, etc. So when you combine these factors, the price it was launched at, the time frame, the psychology of people who were forced to set aside funds because they couldn't really spend that much money, then I don't blame them that the orders. So I think that was a genuine, listen, the orders Nikon received for the Z9 really and truly exceeded, and I can tell because I'm very close with the importer in Malta, the distributors here. They told me, Andre, I'm telling you, we never had so many orders for a Pro body, because at the end of the day, this is not a D850 or that range, it's the Pro, the high end. And he told me this is, unprecedented. So I tend to believe certain announcements when they say, listen, this exceeded expectations once again. It exceeded expectations. And when you look at the 600 with the innovation, with the teleconverter built in, this is all amazing build, amazing technology. And so I think there is a high element of truth in those announcements. I don't think it's like a straightforward.
Well, I want to go back historically, and so many people want to use history of Nikon to predict the future. Okay, so let's do that. I don't agree with their predictions based on what Nikon's done in the past, because they seem to fail to see that Nikon has done something different in whether it's manufacturing a camera or whatever, or releasing bodies or whatever. But anyway, let's use Nikon history. The 500 PF. Great example. The D800, D810, D850, great examples. How could Nikon, I'll tell you what, there in the corporate world, there have to be some things that you take a chance on. I understand that no manufacturer wants to have a shelf full or shelves full of any one product because they overproduced. I get that. But show me where Nikon's overproduced anything. And if there is something they've overproduced, it's something that, wasn't very attractive to begin with. But when it comes to camera bodies, especially new bodies that are coming out today, I don't think you can overproduce right now. I don't think you could overproduce the lenses right now. And where is the surprise to Nikon? Hey, we're going to produce another body, a Z8 or a Z7 III or a Z6 III, and let's take it easy because we don't know how this is going to sell. Does anybody believe that those cameras aren't going to sell like hotcakes?
I think, Chuck, you can gauge the overproduction, usually the way I gauge it, and this is what the distributor Malta tells me too, when they tell them, listen, discount these models, for example, the Z50s. There are these offers on specific, the Z50s and the Z5s. They want to try to push them because obviously they're not selling as well as the Z6 too, or the Z7 too, etc. So yes, there are instances where they are producing something, and I remember the distributor was telling me he got stuck with, I don't know if you remember, the 3300s when they came out with those horrible color schemes, like it was like a magenta body or a red finish. They were just they had to.
I'm sorry. You're right. I can't. I couldn't even begin to manage that if I were Nikon. I think it's a bad idea. I don't know if you just. Anyway, that's a development problem. I mean, to go that route, but. When it comes to other gear, semi-professional, high-end amateur photography, and professional. I don't know what semi-professional is, so I don't know why I said that. You either are or you aren't. But
I understand, yes.
Yeah. But I think that they have enough data, historical data now, to back up the fact that we know this camera body is going to do extraordinarily well. I mean, and you know what? If they're not looking at what's the conversations that are going on the internet and on YouTube and in other social media circles, if they're not looking at that data, and I know that you can't say that every comment equates to a sell or a sale, but you can get a pretty good idea as to how much demand there is out there. And I'm not saying use this only, but I don't know that they do. But there are certain cameras that even I know will do extremely well. And I'm no marketing expert. I'm just looking at what's going on, what's being talked about, and some other things like with the Z9. I knew this camera was going to sell extremely well. Why? Because people were willing to push their budget to buy it. Why? Because it was $1,000 cheaper than any flagship has ever been. And there were some people that stretched their budget beyond what they should have, but they bought the Z9. Why? Because it is it's not just because it's a phenomenal camera, it is, but it's such a game-changing camera in all that it's doing. And even video people looked closely at the Z9, and some picked it up for that reason alone, just the video capability. So anyway, my point is it didn't take a genius. An idiot from Kentucky could have figured that out, and we talked about it early on. Do I think the Z8 is going to be the same way? Yes, absolutely. Why? Because those that didn't force their budget to accept a price of the Z9 are sitting there waiting for the next camera that mimics the Z9. It may not be all the Z9 is, but it's going to be close enough. And right now, Nikon doesn't have any cameras in its lineup.
Yes.
None.
But I'm telling you, Chuck, I mean, designing, developing the Z9 in pre-COVID conditions where there was availability of chips and production lines and everything. And designing a body in the last 2 years, I think it's the challenges were, astronomical, the changes. So the planning, and it's easy to say, let's channel down the AF technology in the Z8. I'm sure the Z8 is being planned probably right after or in conjunction when the Z9 was being done. But I think to bring it now to the market and to make sure it's available in decent quantities based on the expected demand, it's challenging to match those.
If that were the case, that would explain some of it, Andre. I could accept some of it. If they were going to bring it out in enough quantity to satisfy the, a whole lot more people right up front, I could understand that. But it seems like there's limited quantity. They're bringing it to the retail before they have sufficient quantity, and then they're constantly in the catch-up mode. And then we get the statement, we didn't realize the demand for blah blah blah. Okay, I don't know. Again, I'm not switching, and I'm not switching because Nikon's the best. I'm not switching because I like Nikon, but it doesn't mean I won't bust their chops. And I am not a fanboy in that, I'm going to tell everybody my camera is better than your camera. Your camera's no good, and my brand is the best brand. I'm not going to do that, but I stick with it because I like it. But I do have some bones to pick with Nikon. So, I hope that at least shows that I am honest. I'm an honest broker, so don't think that I'm going to go out and attack all the other brands. I'm not. Again, today, I think that you can't buy a bad camera right now. I think all brands have brought their best to the table right now. So anyway, but I'm going to continue to harp on Nikon because I am a petulant child. As I've been told, that's okay. At least you know who I am and what to expect. All right, man. Hobby. Yeah, it is. It's my hobby. My wife doesn't want to hear it, so I have to share it with you all.
Ultimately, the way I also see it as myself, my profession, I'm an investment advisor. So I, sometimes, Grays, they look at do the Nikon reports and they go into the figures of Nikon, what they're doing financially, etc. I think the way they're managing the company in the last 2 years, they made huge improvements. Even how they were buying back their own shares, which shows confidence in what they're doing. So those are all
a good sign.
Yes, very, very good sign. So in an ideal world, as you're saying, you have supply matching demand, the body with the right features at the right price, with the but it's it's very difficult to tick all the boxes. But I think, to their credit, the Z9 TIG was a game changer from a revenue for the company, because imagine selling all those. You need to sell 10 D3000 range bodies in terms of revenue to match the revenue of a Z9, for the company. Right. So that made such a difference,
Well, I don't know how everybody will feel. And again, sorry, folks, for all the Nikon chat, but we'll just get it out of the way here for a minute. Again,
sorry,
if you want to get on
this time.
No, it's not your fault, because, if I shot Sony, I guess everybody get mad that I'm only talking about Sony. So I hope you'll bear with me, folks. But you're welcome to come on the show and bring up Sony, Canon. I can't speak intelligently about what they're doing. I only get news clips from some of the YouTube sites, but you're more than welcome to come on and we can carry that conversation on as well, because I am interested in it. But, I think that, Nikon is on the verge of something big with the new shutterless technology. I don't know how far down the line it's going to go, but I think we're going to see it in a few models that are coming out next. It's processing power that we've been lacking for the AF that we have now. So it's going to be interesting. I think all at least those next 3 models are going to be XP 7 processors. There's already somebody out there that's making some absurd rumor or started some absurd rumor. The Z8 will have 2 XP 7 processors in it.
Who knows?
It could be. Yeah, anything is possible, but I don't think that that's the case. But, I wouldn't be surprised as much in the dark as we are with what Nikon's up to. But what I was going to say is really, if we don't get some hint, a development announcement, which will actually tick everybody off because it's been long enough, and we had heard that the Z8 was in development before or at the same time the Z9 was in development, which could be the case because I don't think they develop one thing at a time. That's not very good for R&D and for a company. But anyway, if we don't get something soon, then a lot of Nikon shooters are going to be very upset. So I expect CP Plus to be the opportunity for them to do that. Yes, there are a few other events this year, NAB or whatever, but they have made announcements at CP Plus. They have planned for announcements at CP Plus, but couldn't carry the announcement out because I think this is back right around the beginning of COVID. So that had something to do with it. But anyway, I think that we see something in the next month. If we don't see or hear something in the next month, man, I don't know what to expect after that. So
talking about other brands, and I'm combining this with event photography, so you'll be there shooting photos. Oh, what lens is that? 200. You shoot Nikon A, they're the best. I tell them right away, listen, all these, the Canons are good, the Sonys are good, but since mirrorless and the recent stance which Canon took on third-party lenses, for example, I tell people who ask me, I tell them, listen, take this into consideration, that Canon are against, or they have stopped third-party manufacturers from, producing cheaper entry-level autofocus lenses. So think about that, with Nikon you have the option of a Tamron, of the Nikon lower end, the 27, I forgot the range, but the 2.8, but not the 2470, the other one. But with Canon, I think that's not a smart move, in my opinion, that they took that approach of not allowing third-party manufacturers to produce lenses for the
strange decision that.
Yeah,
very strange.
I think it's but so yes, with your Chuck, you cannot buy a bad camera, but you have to think about the body and the lenses, the availability, and you have a closed door with Canon. They're just telling you, you have to go down this route.
Yeah, but I think there's a long discussion to be had when we start talking about lens lineups and everything else, because there are pros and cons to what's going on in each camp, no doubt about that. As far as Canon, not opening the door yet for third-party lenses, I see some of the anger going on out there in the Canon community, but I haven't seen it affect them too much yet. Any more than, and everybody will, talk about, well, Nikon shooters are talking about if they don't get this soon enough or something doesn't happen soon, they're going to switch. And there are some people out there in both Canon that will switch possibly because of Canon's decision. But how much does it affect, the Canon community as a whole? Same thing with Nikon. How much does it affect the Nikon community as a whole if Nikon doesn't get a APS-C Pro body out? Will people really switch because Nikon isn't doing that quick enough? And that Canon's going to at some point open up lenses to third-party manufacturers, and it's only on the autofocus side because they want their autofocus lenses to represent their brand and not be some fake, phony, whatever third-party autofocus system. So it's interesting, but I don't know how it's going to hurt Canon on the third-party lens thing. Sony, of course, has lenses manufactured by everybody and their brother. Obviously, Sony doesn't manufacture lenses, or I don't know. Have they dabbled in that yet? Because we have Sony, whatever, G Master lenses. Who's making those lenses? Is it Sony? Zeiss. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, that's why they have 8 jillion lenses for the Sony system. One, because they haven't changed their mount since the development of the Sony system.
They inherited Minolta.
Yeah, exactly.
Minolta mount.
Yeah.
It's an APS-C mount.
Yeah, absolutely. And how many people were vying for that opportunity to make lenses for Sony from day one? I'm sure lots, because everybody understood Sony doesn't make lenses. Let's throw our lenses into the hat and see if they select us for production or whatever. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Sony's got some good glass out there. Nikon just changed, and that's what causes all the stir in Nikon is we changed our mount. Guess what? We gave you the FTZ, which works well. I don't know if it's perfect or not, but it works well. But I've had a couple of issues with it. Of course, me, right? Well, Long Rider says Zeiss doesn't make G Master. Sony makes them. Okay, I did not know that, Long Rider. I didn't know that they had been making glass. I didn't know. So that's interesting. But either way, I mean, yeah, there's a full lineup of lenses because Sony hasn't changed anything. And of course they have a long lineup of every lens imaginable. Nothing wrong with that. Nikon has a limited line as far as Z glass goes. It's extraordinary glass, but it is a bit limited, but they're doing their best to catch up. And Canon's done a great job in catching up as well with their new RF mount.
But on the high-end lenses, Chuck, like the 600, the 400s, and even Jared says it's clear that Nikon are, at that.
Nikon's always been into lenses more than cameras anyway.
Well, yeah. But on that lens, which is a fantastic lens, again, how many people are going to buy it? I know more than they have lenses available. I understand that. But, your meat and potatoes, this is a balancing act. And if you're into investment, you understand the balancing act here. Do we go with our premier glass up front to show what we can do and nobody can buy? Or do we give people usable focal lengths that they can use? And we're getting into that now. It's hard to argue this point because Nikon's producing more of that glass finally. But how long did it take us to get to this point?
Yeah.
How many?
That's why I agree, Chuck, that when they started with the high-end, in my opinion, 1.8 aperture range, so you have the 50, the 85, the 20, whatever. So there you are satisfying, as you called them before, the semi-pros. I went for the 51.8, for example, for me.
Yeah.
It was affordable, etc. Then they added another layer, the telephoto, high-end, and then they started putting in the 50 1.2, so you're going, and now eventually the 85 1.2, 35 1.2, whatever. So I think it was a good market penetration strategy that they started with the 1.8s in the first year, I would say.
With the long telephotos, they went the other way. They released the expensive stuff first, and now the cheaper stuff is still coming.
Yes, but keep in mind, Roy, that they had the 100-400 before, so they catered for the mid, like Chuck and myself. And then they said, okay, let's now start with the 400 f2.8, 600 f4. I don't know. I think it's
Well,
difficult to come up with the perfect formula as to what they should have done when. But I
Mm.
think compared to what Canon have available, I think lens-wise they're doing it in a
They're doing a good
very
job.
attractive. Yeah.
with the lenses they produce, they are outstanding, no doubt about it. But on the super telephoto end, I mean, how many did we need before we got into some more affordable long glass, not just the 1-400, which is a fantastic lens. I love it. Um,
Hmm.
but the mythical 2-600.
Yes. Yes.
Which is another lens that I think will sell beyond the demand will be high, and you're gonna be waiting for it for a little bit
If
too.
it's anything like the 200 to 500, we've got something really special coming.
Yeah, I mean it's
Hmm.
not an S lens supposedly, but that could be the draw right now. That could have gone back to the drawing board for some changes. That's something that Tom Hogan talks about. There have been products that they were ready to announce, or they sent them out, in the field to do all the testing and everything else, and it came back. Very few, I guess, but some products
Hmm.
that they have decided, nope, we're going back to the drawing board to
Hmm.
make some changes. Could that be the case with the 2-600? I don't know,
Yeah.
but it's interesting, and I don't want to continue to. It's funny
Yes.
though; the views go up when I bash Nikon.
But also, Chuck, keep in mind, imagine you're at the Nikon boardroom meeting at the moment. We have
Oh, I
the
could only
marketing
wish.
team. But imagine the situation where they say, listen, I'm imagining here, okay? We have the 200, 600 available. They know that the demand is going to be, but what do they do if they don't
Underproduced.
have enough parts available? Are they going to be in a position where they auto ridicule themselves because after 3 days they come up with an apology announcement, which is
Yeah,
an obligation in Japan, because if you cannot meet the demand, you have to announce it, make a press release on that. So I think they are trying to minimize as much as possible that upset factor sort of thing, which is difficult
yeah,
because you are creating more of a build-up. People like us, we're talking more about it, 200, 600, 200, 600. So
yeah.
it's never going to be easy.
That's why I need you people around me as a sanity check, because again, as a petulant child, it's easy for me to go off on my rants, but
Hmm.
and I hear everything that you're saying, and I can't argue with every point. You're right, Andre. I guess it's just a frustration. So,
No, it's a justified frustration. But even I'm seeing here Mega Brian Patch, the username,
yep,
he said, rightly so, Nikon released the 2.8 S-Line Trinity fairly early on too, which is true. So, um, and even like here, the local distributor in Malta, you have those lenses, they're available off the shelf. They have the Z9 now in stock, which is nice. They have that new gadget of the video because there are a
oh
lot
yeah,
The grip.
locally, a
yep,
lot of TV stations here. They ordered the Z9 because of the 8K. So the distributor told me the amount of orders from the video side when the
wow,
8K, functionality came in. So yeah, it's not. It's nice to see that element of brand loyalty who are pre-ordering and ready to wait at the end of the day. Now the question is, how long are you going to wait for? Um, I waited for 2 months for the Z9 after it was launched, so I had it in like February. You know, when
yeah,
Matt Granger had two on Christmas Eve,
yeah,
if you remember.
yeah, uh, yeah.
But um,
Yeah, and James said, or Jim said, he's willing to wait, and obviously I am. I am too. I'm waiting, and I will continue to wait. but it doesn't mean I'm not going to complain about it. Of course I am, because that's me.
So, Chuck, may I ask you, since you have the 100 400, for example, I'm not tempted for the 200 600, but given that someone like you have the 100 to 400, you really want that range now, the 200 600, or it's
No, actually, I'm not going to buy the 2 to 600. Actually,
okay, all right,
I
sorry
am.
then. Mine.
yeah. Again, can I be corny and say I'm fighting for all those that are waiting for it, because I know there are so many, and that's actually the truth. I want to see them, and it makes sense to me. That lens should have been out a while ago, but maybe in the end
Okay.
we'll find out that there were some changes made, and Roy gets his wish, and it's 5.6 across the focal length.
Roy, can I ask you a question since you're eager on the 200 600? Do you think that price range it will be in the 100 400 level?
No, I
The-
think it'd
the
be
one-
much cheaper. I think
It will be much
half the
cheaper,
price.
you think?
I think
Okay.
it'd be,
Wow.
If it's
that's what
what
I
they,
expect anyway.
if it's what they're saying it is, it's not a non-S lens. Yeah, I don't know what the price will be, but I'd say cheaper definitely too than the 1 to 400.
I think about 2,000.
Yeah,
I think it'd be a successor to the 200 500. It'd be based on that sort of.
yeah. So I think
great.
that I think we'll see the few pennies under 2,000 to make it seem better. I agree with you, Roy. Ultimate bird and flight kit, Jim says, is 1 to 400, 2 to 600, and 800 PF. Yeah, that would be, no doubt about it.
Too much gear to carry.
Yeah. So we can still hear you, Andre, even though your
Yes,
webcam utilities come up. I'm just letting you know.
I just need to change the battery. My apologies.
No
I'm
apology
lazy
necessary.
too. I've been running
Yes.
batteries. I should be running a battery replacement of battery.
Yeah, no
Doesn't matter.
problems. No problems. This is live, and that's things happen. I'm just glad it isn't audio. That's the hardest thing to fix, is when we have audio issues. But today we're doing well. So Jim says 21 to 2,300 for the 2 to 600. It
I
could
think
be.
so. Somewhere around there anyway.
Yeah, Long Rider, again, man, get that studio together. We got to get you on here. You need to keep us up to date on things. That's your job, is to be here live in the panel to keep us up to date on all the Sony things going on. And so you guys know, he's constantly sending me things about Nikon and that, which I find interesting, Long Rider, and appreciate it. If you're keeping up that much with Nikon, I can only imagine how much information you're going through about Sony. You got to be on the show, man. That's it. All right. It's a done deal. No more excuses.
He's invisible.
He's a good guy. He's a really good guy. You guys that haven't, I haven't met him in face to face personally, but talked to him quite a bit. And I'll tell you right now, Long Rider is a great guy. He's
We
a
need
good,
him on the show.
Yep, we do. We do. I got to clean this act up. I mean, you're stuck with me and Roy.
What a
We
thought.
brought Andre in to kind of pick up the.
Hi,
Yeah.
I'm back.
All right.
Sorry about that.
The
I
hugging
know you
would be
soon
good
have
for
to
us.
leave, right, Chuck?
Yeah, just in a few minutes. I'm glad you brought that up. I don't have to worry. My wife would have been all over me because, again, I can't miss this appointment. But well, it's all interesting, no matter what. That's what makes the conversations interesting too. There's a little passion involved, and that's what it is. I got to tell you, it's passion. And every shooter out there, whatever brand he's shooting, should be passionate about his brand. Not to the point of fanboyism where you're attacking everybody else. I'm not going to do that. I'm passionate about Nikon, but I'm not attacking anybody. And I do believe there are, great cameras out there to be had in any brand.
Agreed.
See, and here you go. I got to put this up there, Long Rider. I think a true shooter or true passionate brand owner is willing to be critical about their brand. And if you're not, then you are a fanboy. And I am absolutely passionate about Nikon, but I am no fanboy and will be willing to call it like it is as I see it. So there you go. So he says, I have more criticism for Sony about the camera choices they make than the lenses. All right. Well, I get both right now for Nikon, camera bodies and lenses. So, I've been on that rant for a while. And he goes on to say, I am passionate about photography, not my current brand. You know what? If we could all actually be that way and honestly be that way, man, the photography world and YouTube would be a better place. Thanks, Alan.
With Sony, from fellow Maltese friends, what they complain about is that the quick model changes, like within a year, they already have this feeling that their model is almost outdated, it's being replaced, At least we can enjoy our model for 2 years, at least, roughly.
Let's see. Too many choices, not enough choices. I don't know. I got to wonder where's the balancing point there? I got to wonder. Oh,
You're
man.
Right. You're right. So it's,
I nearly bought the A1 instead of the Z9, but the Z9 suits my needs better.
Mm-hmm. There you go. There you go. I did pick up the A1 when I was at B&H, and that's as much as I've done with an A1. And I got to say, the body didn't feel bad. I'm not going to say, I didn't like the body, blah, blah, blah. It was okay. And honestly, I do prefer the feel of the Nikon body. But there's nothing wrong with I guess it's all in what you get used to, and that's it. That's why I tell people, what camera should I buy? I go somewhere where you can put your hands on whatever brands are available to you or you're looking at. Which one feels the best in your hand? Because I'm telling you right now, you're not going to buy a bad camera. Just which one feels the best in your hand, which one looks the most pleasing aesthetically you're attracted to. If you buy for that reason alone, now I wouldn't say this if the other brands, or if Nikon wasn't up to par, or Sony wasn't, or Canon wasn't, or Fuji or whatever. But whatever you like the feel of the most and the looks of the most, you're more apt to shoot that camera than any other that you could buy. No matter how much better you think the other camera is the one that feels best in your hand, the one that's pleasing to your eye. That's the camera you're going to want to carry. That's the camera you're going to want to use. So
sometimes one feature will be more important than others, like the sync speed on the A1 is 400 and the Nikon's half that. So that was very attractive.
Yeah.
I wish the Nikon had a much faster sync speed.
Yep. Long Rider says, another comment from him, I could switch brands in a second, never look back. If Nikon made a D500 and mirrorless, I would be the first one in line with that 800 6.3. Well,
that'd be too long on a crop sensor.
Man, can you imagine?
Is too long on a crop sensor.
Yeah. Well, you may get your chance at that, Long Rider. I know Nikon's going to do that. I just know that they will. They're going to build an APS-C Pro body. I just don't know when. And you've heard me say it many times. I think Nikon needs to fill the lineup with the full frame and then start looking at APS-C Pro body. So, but we'll see. We'll see. They could surprise us all, and they could drop a APS-C Pro body now and not drop the Z8, Z7 III, or Z6 III. Am I going to be ticked off? Yeah, I'm going to be a little perturbed, but still happy that at least we're moving forward in the Nikon camp. I don't think that they can do that right now. We got a Z30. I know it's not even close to what everybody's talking about, but we got a Z30. So they checked the box there for entry level, blogger, vlogger, whatever. You still got a ways to go on the DX side, I think, for Nikon. Some updates to the Z50. The ZFC, I don't see an update to, but the Z50, I could see an update to it. So we'll have to wait and see. But right now, Nikon, we're playing basketball with nothing but a center. That's all we have on the floor. We need some more players, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Some people with more personality than me.
No.
Yeah, Albert says he'd love to see you, Long Rider, and I'd like to see Albert in here more with us too. Albert's an interesting character, quite interesting character. Good guy, very good guy. Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, I'm not too far from backing out here, folks. I've got another maybe 10 minutes. So if there's anything you guys want to talk about or ask Andre or Roy about, by all means, bring it up in the chat. I know you don't have any questions for me because I'm just going to turn to Andre or turn to or Roy anyway.
What's very interesting because, okay, I'm European, but when I bought my first Nikon, which was a D3000, I remember, as you rightly so, you mentioned, Chuck, the design, there was something about the design. And then when I researched about the Nikon design, it's actually designed in 1976. A certain Guigiaro Designs. It's an Italian office, Italian office design. They designed the initial Nikons, so that red
swoosh,
design.
The stripe.
Yes, the stripe. And they were designers for the Golf also, the Volkswagen Golf in Europe, which is one of the top best-selling cars. So, as you said, the design, the visual is very important too, because at the end of the day, you're carrying these lenses. I mean, if I look at the design of the 200 f2, for example, I think that design it's a jewel of a lens to look at. There you go.
F3.
Exactly. Yes.
Oh, man.
And that's what's nice about Nikon bodies. When you look at the old bodies, they are still pleasing to the eye. They don't look, like cheap or plasticky. And this is why I like the feel, because some people complain. They compare the weight of the Z9 to the Canon R3. They say the R3.
Roy, hang on just a second. Roy, put it up to your eye like you're taking a photo and move up to the camera, because that's going to hide your face and the focus will go right to the camera.
Doesn't work without a lens on.
Yes, that's
it's in focus now. You don't have to take a photo, just it hides your face so that the camera can focus on.
People tell me to hide my face quite often.
All right. I'm sorry, Andre. Finish your
No. So what I'm saying is that because there were complaints about the weight of the Z9, but compared to the R3, for example, because they're the full body. But I love the feel of the Z9, the weight. It gives me that sense that I'm carrying something which is solid build. Okay, that's
oh man,
that's heavier. Yes. That's about 10 pounds, I think it is, without lenses and things.
I agree with you, Andre. And one of the things that attracted me to the Z9 as well was the fact that I owned a D4 and a D5, and I kind of fell in love with that
weight bracket.
Yeah, well, the weight and the feel.
Yes,
I had a battery external grip for my D850, and I have it for my D500. But I don't know, and you guys can tell me what you think. As crazy as I am, it may be just me, but it doesn't feel the same as a vertical grip body.
No, it doesn't.
Even though it is, but it doesn't feel the same to me. I don't know. It just felt different.
Yes. Number one, from a weather sealing point of view, when you have that that gap of the battery grip, it's not, obviously by design it's not as good as a full body, obviously. So that's the starting point, you know. But yes, I agree. Even the feel of a full body is the way it should be for the professional shooter. You know, you have
I think it felt bottom heavy, believe it or not. It felt out of balance with the battery grip, where the full body, it's all balanced. I mean, the camera body itself is balanced. Maybe
but then
that's
what I really like about the D850 is that without the grip, it feels at the same level of the, you know, the Z9. So I'm hoping that the Z8 gives you that same feel of a D850, that you have a Pro but more of a compact, you know, it's not a Z9 obviously, but you know what I mean.
That was one of the big points when the D500 was announced, which was announced with the D5, by the way. Nikon had never done that before, but we forget that was the first, so they can't have any other first. Anyway, when they announced
Sebastian has a valid comment here. He says, you like that wait until you are on a 10-hour hike with 1 kilometer elevation difference. But Sebastian, this is why I also own a Z6 II, you know, because sometimes I feel that the Z9 is appropriate, and then I have the Z6 II. I won't buy the Z8, for example. I'm happy with the Z9 and the Z6 II.
Hey,
it depends.
I want to recognize Jim's comment here. Try talking to your other half for 2 hours about photography. Again, thank you, Jim, because that's exactly why this channel exists. Because my wife, again, has about 2 minutes worth of listening, and then it's okay, I'm done. Please go away. You know, when comes to photography.
I'm the same, Chuck.
and I didn't have anybody to share it with. I obviously don't have anybody who lives near me to share it with. I mean, like, you know, in the neighborhood or whatever. And my brother, my family, they don't care about others. So the only thing I have is you guys. And that's the reason it's one of the other reasons that this channel exists. But thanks to Jim. I appreciate you posting that comment. Space People says bottom heavy is good. So I you know, and again, this goes back to the feel and what you like and whatever. There is no wrong. There is no right. Full body, if it's too heavy, too big, too bulky or whatever, I understand. You just don't like that feel. If you're shooting, you know, a D850 or a Z7 or whatever, and, you know, you prefer that size camera and that weight, I understand. That's fine. Where I do take a little umbrance is when people start talking about it's too heavy. It's too heavy for you. I can understand that. Although I don't know where we're going with cameras, that we can't carry them anymore. But all that aside, again, it goes back to the feel. Here we are. We're really talking about feel between these two bodies, you know, and a body with a grip on it. So, you know, it's just, it's your, whatever suits you. That's the great thing is there are so many opportunities out there to buy what suits you. And I think that's what you have to do. And we need to get rid of some of the YouTubers that can't get away from, you know, bashing a brand for views and everything else. So anyway.
I don't know if you saw the 1 year afterthought of Jared Polin. I don't know what your views were on that, but talking about bashing, you know, but at the end of the day, I wasn't in agreement with him personally because he used B-roll footage of when the firmware was in the initial stages. So I agree with him, had the firmware remained at version, you know, of the launch firmware, but well, you know, showing the footage, and I don't know if you remember, but he had placed a Canon, a Sony, and a Nikon next to each other. And you could see the focus tracking, obviously, with the initial firmware, yes, the Nikon wasn't as good. I'm not saying that now it's exactly spot on, but the viewer who will see that 1 year after video, when he sees that clip, he will say, "Oh, Lallo,
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
a problematic camera, you know. Let me opt for a Canon or a Sony." Nothing against Canon and Sony, but if you are going to invest time in producing a video with the 1 month after, make sure that you present to your followers, 1.5 million followers, listen, this is the latest firmware and the latest
See,
performance levels.
that's the problem with being an influencer is it can be extremely good or extremely bad, you know, being an influencer. And you may alienate people that down the road will come back to you and say, why did you do that to me? You know, I found out different, or, you know, why did you move me away from a certain brand or whatever. But I don't know what's going to make Fro happy, you know, as far as Nikon goes.
Money.
And I would think that maybe he doesn't want to be happy about what Nikon does because he gets so much airtime out of, you know, Nikon. And Nikon's willing to take the abuse.
I
You
mean,
know?
I understand
Thank you, sir. Give me another.
Jared's
Thank you, sir. Give me
position.
another.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
was going to say, I understand Jared's position because imagine, I empathize with him because I don't know if you remember, but Canon sent him tons of lenses, the old, not the new mirrorless lenses, like to give away to schools, amateur photographers. So
Yeah.
I think automatically when you're in that position, imagine if Nikon had to call me and they tell you, Andre, will you be in your music room tomorrow afternoon? Because we're going to deliver 20 lenses, 2470 to give away for students. Obviously, you're biased. We're all human at the end of the day, you know. There's that, thank you Nikon, thank you Canon, blah, blah, blah. So, but when he's now presenting these type of comparisons, these 1 year after, I think you should take a stance where you say, listen, at least I'm going to present all B-roll footage showing the autofocus with the latest firmware.
Yeah.
That's my own, I mean, I'm not anti-Fro or anything. I'm just saying how I feel about, you know, that video in particular.
Well, and there's some comments over there talking about, you know, Sebastian says, I think he does it now just to troll. And I agree with that partially, Sebastian. I go back to, I think Fro, this is his life, is YouTube. This is his job. This is how he makes a living. This is how he pays his electric bill and so on and so forth.
Not about cameras anymore.
Yeah, it's exactly. Well, it is and it isn't. So you're right, Roy. What's most important for him is to continue to build his channel because this is his future. This is his employment, you know, or whatever. I have to give him credit there. He's done a remarkable job. He's figured the system out and knows how to work the system. So I have to give him credit for that. But that doesn't mean I like everything he says. I followed Fro early on when he was doing the stuff in the basement, you know, when he was at home with his grandmother. I enjoyed his chats with his grandmother. I thought that was fantastic, which I encourage everybody to do with your loved ones. You know, you may think I'm crazy, but go video a conversation with your mother, father, or anyone else, because they're not going to be here forever, and you're going to look back later and wish you'd done that. So, yeah. Anyway, he's done a great job in his show. But just the fact that somebody had talked about if you're not changing brands ever so often or whatever, then you know that's the excitement. That's the building of the channel because now you're going to attract all the people that are in that brand or whatever. It's just. Yeah, I don't care.
I admire him a lot. But
Yeah.
I also understand, I mean, even printer, for example, Canon, I don't blame him. They give him a printer with infinite ink supply, so you can, we're all human. It's only natural that if a printing firm had to do that to me, you know, there's a natural tendency that you're going to feel that sense, not of obligation, but,
Yeah.
you know, you're getting that kind of support.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think overall, yes, the way he grew his channel, how consistent he was in the early years to review every type of lens, his way, his delivery, his podcasts. I mean, it's, as you said, Chuck, it's his life, so
I mean, you know what? You're going to make
good luck to him.
compromises. If that's your livelihood, you're going to make compromises, and we have to think about that as well. Could he be as bitter, maybe, or maybe he's not as bitter as he portrays about? Like maybe he's looking for the littlest things to make something out of it. Again, because this is his livelihood. I don't know. I can't do that. Obviously I can't, or I'd be on there telling you Nikon's the only way to go. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Throw all the other brands away. I can't do that because it's not honest. It's not true. But oh shoot, I had another. Oh, his Skittles. Yeah. His, and Long Rider had asked, has anybody seen one great photo by he or, the Northrops? And, I honestly haven't seen anything that's really a great photo from either one of them. But then again, I haven't seen an extensive portfolio by either one of them. So I can't pass judgment just yet. But I haven't seen anything that really tickled my fancy by either the Northrops or Fro. Mm-hmm. And again, why the Skittles? Skittles pack because it's another way to earn income, and if this is your livelihood, you're going to try everything that may bring more finances to the table. So I can't shoot him for that, but I can disagree with some of the things he says and disagree with how he may influence people when he shouldn't influence them in such a negative way. So anyway, yeah, I don't have anything personal against Fro or the Northrops. They are who they are. I mean, I know other liars too. I shouldn't say it that way.
Embellishers.
Yes, yes.
Talking about other channels, one of my favorite channels, which I really enjoy watching, is Morten Hilmer, who is,
yes,
his production, his patience, natural. Even because what I say is, so this guy is actually placing a camera every time when he walks, and he films himself walking. We just see that, obviously, but imagine the amount of time and investment he does in each and every video, the music. I think that's very admirable in my opinion, and good luck.
Yeah, I agree. And Space People says, Josh, Bayou Josh, I loved his content. I got to tell you, I don't care what he was shooting, if he switched or not, but
yes,
he moved on. He's got some things going on in life, and he's going to pursue more so than YouTube. Okay, I'm okay with that. I mean, I'd love to see him come back, but, again, I'm not going to shoot the guy down because he's choosing his own path, which is what everybody should do, not be influenced, right? Oh, man. If Flintlock's in here, colorful in here today, everyone has pretty color screen names. All right. Well, that's us. We are all about colorful screen names. And sorry you showed up so late, Flintlock, because I am getting ready to go. I'm being hailed already. Hey, folks, sorry I got to go early today, but the show must go on. I had to at least get in here for a couple of hours. But I will be back Saturday night. Saturday night is the big photo review here on the channel. Yeah. I have some photos already. I have not acknowledged to you. If you've already sent a photo, I'll be doing that probably tomorrow. I'll have a chance to sit down and go through the photos that I have and put it all together. And if you want to participate in the photo review, information is in the description. If there's a question about it, just let me know, send me an email and I'll clarify. But we will be doing that Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time here on the, excuse me, man, on the American continent. We'll be doing it. And again, I look forward to everybody sending photos in. We always have a good time. We're not here to do critical critiques and bash anybody. It's more about an opportunity to share some of the work that you've done or are doing. And it's always fun. I've seen some fantastic photos. You guys knock it out of the park. But
Indeed.
man, I'm impressed. And over on, and not to plug the Facebook group, but over on AP Studios group on Facebook, man, you guys wow me constantly with the photos that you're dropping over there. It's been fantastic. So, all right, guys. Uh-oh. Yeah, I got to go. Talk to everybody later. Sorry.